Coral, can I get you to turn the music down one notch, please? All right, we out here.
Yes, sir.
Motherfucking sake in the building.
What's going on?
How are you?
Doing good. How you doing today?
Good. I'm glad to have you here, homie.
Me too.
Let me see. Oh, did I forget my tea? Of course I did.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man. There's certain body parts I have that if they weren't attached, I would lose them.
Like Go-Go Gadget?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was thinking to extend your arm, but no, I can't.
No. Hey, sometimes I wish I had Go-Go Gadget too, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe make things better at home. No, just kidding. How are you, s.saik?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Yeah?
It's been working.
A lot.
Trying to keep content out, keep people excited. But yeah, man, it's been crazy so far. 2022 started off with a blast.
I see you, fam, grinding. There's always a new project you're working on. You're heavily involved with giving back to the community, which is actually how we met, which I kind of want to get into all of that. But I usually like to start these things with the simple, who are you and what do you do?
I'm s.saik, and I'm a singer/songwriter from West Palm. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I do music full time. I like to help people. I like to make music that makes people not feel alone. And I feel like that's what my calling is in this world, is to do that.
I love that. You know, in a time where the media and the world is telling us to be afraid of our neighbors and to isolate and social distance and to create music that makes you not feel alone is so powerful, so important.
Especially with what's going on these days. Like, suicide rate has gone up so much. People are like going crazy.
Yeah, especially in young girls.
Yep.
You know, and I think a lot of that is being credited to social media. Because of many different things. The algorithms are set up to show us things that will upset us. Or things that we engage with the most. Let me clarify. So the things that we spend the most time watching, do the most comments on, the most engagement, is what we get fed. Often because we are triggered by what we don't like and what upsets us. That's what we engage with, and that's what we get fed more of. So there's that on top of the filters, like the beautifying filters on social media that are creating this false reality of what beauty is. And these young women are feeling like they have to meet an unachievable standard. You know, there's filters on no filter. Have you heard about this?
No.
Like Snapchat has a 10% beautify on their no filter thing.
That's just what the normal camera is.
10% beautify.
Wow.
You know?
That's how you catfish in this world, you know? The catfish are on the rise.
They are.
But yeah, no, I hear that. And when you're absorbing that all day, you know, our phones are addicting. Like, it's just like what our generation has like grown to get used to. And you're absolutely right. Like, people see stuff that's like what they don't have, or, you know, what they should look like, or who they, you know, what kind of clothes they should wear, what kind of car they should drive. And like, when you don't have that, it messes with your head. And there is also a lot of negative things. I see videos of like horrible stuff all the time, and like you're soaking that in, you know, like everything that you put into your brain, like that affects you. Even if you know, even just like watching too much of the wrong stuff, like TV, even not even just social media, like whatever your brain is absorbing is gonna affect your mood. Which
is so important with the movement that you've created, which I'm a huge fan of, which I actually might get tattooed on me.
That would be awesome.
And that is
Love Yourself Gang.
The Love Yourself Gang.
Yes.
I think that's just a really beautiful sentiment.
Thank you.
How are you like embodying that? How does that come to life, the Love Yourself movement?
So really, like a few years ago, like 5 years ago now actually, I was at a very low spot mentally, just like was living recklessly, not doing the right things, and I just really hated myself, like for real. Like I really didn't like who I was, how I was like in a very deep state of depression, contemplated suicide, and I was like, man, I can't kill myself. You know what I mean? Like there's things in life, you know, because I'm very grateful for a lot of things, and you start thinking about like, wow, okay, if I actually do go through with this, like, who am I gonna upset, etc., etc. So thankfully I was able to shake myself out of those thoughts, and like by doing that was just like constantly telling myself like, love yourself. And then like one day I was like, you know what, let's just start a whole movement and call it the Love Yourself Gang, because like my music's always been pretty much like with the same types of like topics, you know, like I speak from real experience, I speak from pain, you know, stuff that's relatable that people I know have also gone through. So I was like, you know, why not put something positive to go behind that? So like with the music and the movement going hand in hand, you know, not only are like we promoting the self-love just through the movement, which we put in merchandise, you know, put it on jackets, hoodies, shirts, etc., bracelets, you know, you listen to music that you're absorbing, you know, things that are positive, you know, and you're like, okay, I'm not the only person who feels this way, and I aspire with time to expand that movement and just help people appreciate themselves. You know, like I know a lot of people who have been in toxic relationships and have, as well as me, you know, friendships or, you know, intimate relationships that really knock you down some notches, and it's very easy to lose yourself, and it's very easy to lose the good, like what's good about you and what's likable about you and why you are such an amazing individual, you know. And I want every person that I impact to at least have that in the back of their head, even on their worst days. You know what I mean?
That's so dope, dude. And to know how you've turned such a sad time in your life into such a positive thing, is so powerful and so important. I had the opportunity to get a cameo in one of your recent videos, which was super dope. It's PTSD, which my family's very familiar with. Excuse me one sec. Babe, can you do me a favor and shut that back door, please? My family's very familiar with PTSD. My brother did 10 years in the Army, 2 terms in Baghdad, was a Bronze Star recipient. He saved his commanding officer's life and probably his whole platoon's life by having to kill a pregnant woman who had a suicide vest strapped onto her, who was bum rushing their truck. And he had to pull out his sidearm and kill a pregnant woman. In the early 2000s, and he was never the same, as you can imagine. And that trauma led to years of drug abuse. And then after being sober for 2 years, ended up using, and it happened to be fentanyl, and it killed him at 33 years old. And you know, some people would say that was a drug overdose, which it was, an accidental drug overdose, but I feel strongly that was the tail end. That was the period on the sentence of PTSD. You know, and I know people get PTSD from different stimulus or stimuli. And I don't think, obviously, war is one thing, but if you're in a state where trauma has affected you so strongly that it causes this PTSD, to me, it's all very similar. You know, I was robbed at gunpoint in my shower in 2005. All my roommates were duct taped. I was put into a closet, pistol whipped, and almost killed. And I have serious, severe PTSD from that. That I didn't know was PTSD until I sat with a therapist. Anyway, that's a long way of saying that we all experience pieces of post-traumatic stress disorder from traumatic things that have happened in our lives.
Absolutely.
Most of us are afraid to talk about it. Most of us think that if we do talk about it, it will portray us as weak or as sick. And I think it's so important to talk about these things so that they don't live in the darkest parts of our mind. But you know, it's almost like exposure therapy in a sense, where like, let's talk about it, let's get it out, let's bring it to the surface, and let's support each other when we're going through these conversations so that we can love ourselves again.
Absolutely.
And your PTSD song, I think, does that beautifully.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll share a link to it in the bio or in the description. We'll be able to send everybody to all your social media, because I feel like it can change lives.
Thank you, dude.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about where your inspiration for PTSD comes from?
All right. Well, I've had some different experiences happen throughout my life, and kind of like basing off of what you said, like a lot of people don't want to talk about it and don't want to acknowledge, you know, something that they went through. And I feel like a lot of people don't even really know that they're experiencing PTSD in a sense, you know, because they are told to just brush something off or let it go, or you know what I mean. Like a lot of people are around friends or family that encourage you to like not tap in with your emotions and you know not talk about your feelings. And like I just, for me personally, like I never thought that, you know, like I never questioned if it's okay to talk about my feelings or talk about what I've been through, or you know, facing my demons, you know, because I feel like for me personally, for such a long time, in a sense, I guess I did have troubles accepting, like, I went through stuff, you know, at a very young age that happened to me, that I couldn't even remember until, like, later in life, you know, and that was, like, a huge, like, trigger for me to be like, wow, that really did happen when I was so young, you know, and it was two different experiences, and, like, one experience, like, I don't really want to speak on, and then like another experience, I was almost killed when I was 4, like kind of same situation. Like I got tied up and they put a bag over my head, and I just remember like all through my childhood asking my parents if that really happened. It was like I knew it happened, but I can't remember it happened. I was 4 years old, and you know your brain is still developing, so your memory is already kind of, you know, iffy, but I knew it happened. And that was like kind of my first realization of like, oh wow, like that could be for a lot of reason for anxiety, you know, why I'm anxious all the time, like you know, that kind of that question in my head of like what the hell happened, you know, like always kind of wondering like, is my brain just like blocking that part of it out, because that's what trauma does, you know, trauma can cause you to be splotchy with your memory and stuff. And I don't know, like that for me was like my first recognizing that I had PTSD, and then going through life, like you know, a young adult, I experienced a lot of things that were traumatic as well. You know, had seen a lot of different shit that I wish I didn't see. Got shot at before, been robbed at gunpoint as well, and you know those type of things just, you know, they're in your head a lot. It's caused a lot of paranoia for me. It's caused a lot of anxiety.
Same.
Caused a lot of depression. You know, and it's just constantly having to remind myself like I can't let these things be an excuse for why I can't move forward, but I at the same time need to know what I'm up against. Do you understand?
Well said, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I know it's there, and that's kind of like why I said in the song, like sometimes it do break me down. Most of the time I gotta keep going.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, sometimes it affects me, but like in life, like you have to learn how to like battle your demons. And like how I go into the next line, like I hope you know I'm not trying to hide, there's just demons inside I don't want to invite to the party. Like that's me kind of briefly saying like people with PTSD don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to relive those moments and, you know, now bring someone else into your experience. But at the same time, it's really good to talk about it, and it is very important. Not only is it good to talk about it, it's important who you talk to about it. You know, because not everybody is out here to help you, but that's why I want to be able to put out a safe space for people to express themselves and feel emotion, and like I said, just like not being alone. Yeah.
I respect that so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll share that in the description so everybody can check that video out. It's a wild time to be alive. We are subjected to so much information, right? It's been said that like you know, if you eat a junk food diet, processed food, junk food all the time, your health is going to be very shitty, right? Us absorbing information through social media is like a junk food media diet, right? It's all this processed junk bullshit that we are subjected to every day, that is you know, causing all sorts of stressors that we didn't even know existed. You know, so it's cool for you to be a voice for love yourself and for people who are battling with different things. And I think it's interesting what you said about you got to be careful who you tell, because not everybody's out here to see you win. You know, that is definitely a challenge. I've been told that if you can count your real true friends in your lifetime on one or maybe two hands, true friends, you're lucky. You know, these are people who are gonna love you unconditionally. And nowadays, like, relationships are so fleeting, and there's always like the next hot thing, and it's like, who can you really trust? people you've known your whole life will betray you.
Yep.
And that's, terrifying. It's like my friend told me, one of my dear friends, Kevin Birch, told me it's called King Syndrome. When you start to do really well and progress and whatnot, the people closest to you end up wanting to be the ones to see you fail because they want to take your spot. It's terrible, but it's true. Like Jesus was given up by his own people, his own disciples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So who can you trust? There's also this thing, it's like narrow vision. They say, why do strangers support you more than the people closest to you? And because it's like the people closest to you are only seeing like this, where if somebody is standing back, they can see the bigger picture. So I guess it's important to say, be mindful of who you share with, but also just constantly, be on the lookout for those who have that underlying loyalty, and you can always see a real one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Especially when shit gets tough. That's when you really see who's like there for you and who's not. And,
absolutely.
There's like for me, like I definitely can be a guarded person, but also if I had to give any advice to anybody watching this, like don't be too guarded, because you never know what kind of person you're gonna meet and who you could build a relationship with. Like some people have this like idea in their head of like who they want to be their friend, or like what they want, you know what I'm saying, a person to be like, and it could be the most unexpected person that's going to be the most loyal person to you, and that's just like, just kind of goes on with society. I think as people get older, you definitely realize it, but our younger generation, and it's just common, it's not even just because it's the generation below us, but everyone's trying to search for acceptance, so it's, I don't know, I feel like it's hard to find real people in a world of people trying to be somebody else.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true, but I think that's interesting what you're saying, to not be too guarded.
Yeah.
You have to be open, like, the whole Drake song, like, no new friends. Like, that's kind of like my motto. But once I find myself breaking out of that, I find that I'm able to make some really great relationships with really great people. Absolutely. If I'm not so guarded, and the other thing is you never know who you're going to be standing next to in line at the supermarket.
Yep.
A perfect example for us is I was at Restaurant Depot. I'm in line. This lady next to me is wearing like a Surterra medical marijuana shirt. I'm like, oh, Surterra, I know Surterra. We start chatting. I said, oh, my wife and I own a kava bar. She says, my husband and I own a food truck. I said, you guys should come by sometime. Check us out. The next day they were here.
Oh, wow.
And now their food truck is set up out here every Saturday and Sunday night and Tuesdays. They've become dear, dear friends of ours.
Nice.
And had we not engaged in that conversation in line, and then they had not acted on that conversation, I feel like we both would have missed out on a great relationship, great business opportunities. And that was because we were both open to just kind of see what the possibilities are. So I think that's really powerful too.
Gotta take chances in this life.
Yeah.
And I tell people too, like, it's okay to get hurt, like it's okay to feel pain, and it teaches you lessons as you go on. Like you might think somebody is awesome, and then like you said, like people you've known your whole life can turn around and stab you in the back, and like it hurts, but you gotta feel that pain in order to grow.
Yeah. It creates humility too. I was somebody who was, I pursued a rap career for 15 years, and you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be an international superstar. I was sure of it.
Yeah.
Any day now I'm going to get signed to a record label, and anybody who says anything different is a fucking moron. That was my mentality. But I had to fall on my face multiple times to gain some humility and some gratitude. Once I took a step back and really presented myself and went through my motions with gratitude and humility, the universe started opening up for me.
Started providing.
It's crazy, so it's good to have humility. It's good to have people fuck you over because you learn from that. You learn to see red flags. You maybe learn a little bit of humility and whatnot.
Yeah, and you grow from it.
And you grow. It's got growth mindset. You know what I mean? Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can have Coral bring me my tea that I stupidly left downstairs.
No worries.
I left my tea down there. Do you see it?
Is it in a plastic cup?
It's in a glass. Thank you so much. Okay, something else I wanted to chat with you about, because I think this, I saw something on your social media about DeSantis.
Yeah, what about
So
him?
I wanted to dive in a bit, right? Thank you so much. What I saw on your social media was that DeSantis is helping pass laws that are going to hurt LGBTQ communities in our school.
Correct.
And I am very ignorant when it comes to the laws and whatnot. So I started diving in a bit. And what I worry is that sometimes information is painted to make us see a skewed perception of what the potential reality is, right? So, for instance, there's a law, and I think it's Don't Say Gay, that prevents teachers from teaching about LGBTQ in school.
Right.
Which I think, you know, if you look at like as a whole, like we want people to be taught about this. We want people to be educated, and we want people to respect people's life decisions and whatnot. But in what setting is that appropriate conversation, right? If we're in, like, what classroom is the classroom to teach that in? And again, I don't know anything about the law. And what I worry is that maybe somebody's interpreting the law as, because just to paint DeSantis out as a bad person, that this is going to hurt LGBTQ, when so a lot of times these bills and these laws have so many different things in them. And somebody does is focus on one thing that might even actually not be that way. Like the details of it could have been said, like, we're not going to talk about this in, I don't know, math class.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if we are going to talk about it, what age is appropriate for it to be talked about? But I am ignorant. I'm also a straight white male, so my opinion means very little. But I did want to get your input on, like, because one, some of my closest friends on the planet are gay. One of my best friends on the planet is trans. I want equal opportunity, and I want people to understand what that life is like. But I am also wonder, this is all uncharted territory, right? What age do we teach kids about this? In what setting? You know, so because I think sometimes teachers, unfortunately, may use their position of power to try to manipulate the minds of young people.
Absolutely, and they do. I think for me, like, with that bill, and what really, really bothered me, and it wasn't even so much the banning the discussion of the community, and it's actually extended to workplaces and doctors' offices, which doesn't make much sense to me. And, but the part of the bill that really got to me is teachers are allowed to out their students to the parent if they find out they're gay. Do they have to do it? No, but they're able to. And especially being in Florida, where we're in the South, it's a very mixed crowd here, you know, with political views, religious beliefs, just hateful, racist people in general.
It's true.
You're not going to always get the most open-minded teachers. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of great teachers out there. Most respect to them, you know.
Yeah, it's underpaid and overworked.
Yeah, absolutely. But to out a kid, to pass a law to out a student's sexuality to someone's parents, you know, say the kid's in middle school, you know, 8th grade, 9th grade, figuring out they are a boy that likes boys or girls that like girls, and they're holding hands walking in the hallways type thing, you know what I mean? Like, but their family at home is super conservative and super Christian, you know, and totally not okay with that. Like, in what predicament does it make sense that, like, your teacher goes to your family and now pulls you out of the closet, which for someone, you know, who has lived through that, you want to do that on your own pace. Like, I didn't have a chance. My parents found stuff on my computer that of me and my ex-girlfriend kissing when I was like 15, and they, you know, they outed me, and for me that was kind of a traumatic experience too, because my mom didn't handle it well, and she was very upset and very mean. And like, I wish I had the chance to tell them myself, you know, when I was probably a little bit older, and, you know, when it just felt better. So for me personally, that's really what bothered me the most about that bill. And as to talking about it, I can understand, like, people don't want to talk about that. Like you said, what age is it appropriate? It's really hard to say because we're in such a mixed time of generations. You know, like there's still people that are alive from when bathrooms were segregated.
Correct.
You know, and then we have this Gen Z that's so proactive and so open-minded to, you know, different pronouns, sexualities, etc. You know, so if it were in a situation where it was more people that are open-minded, no matter the age, I don't think it would necessarily have to be taught, because at the end of the day, it's just natural, you know, like it's not a disease, it's not a sickness, it's not a phase.
I agree with that completely.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that completely.
A lot of people think that, and they think like, oh, maybe one day you'll just change, and the reality of it is, no matter what, that person is going to be who they are at some point in their life. You know, it doesn't matter if they're 12, 16, 30, 40, you know, 50, etc. People, the time will come where they feel like they can be themselves. You know, so if we were in a more accepting time, it wouldn't have to be taught like, hey, this is what this is. You know, with time you would figure it out, just like kids in school or boyfriend and girlfriend, you know, and no one teaches you about heterosexuality. You know, no one like specifies that.
What grade is sex ed? Do you remember?
7th grade.
7th grade.
Yep.
So that doesn't seem that far off from being a good time to talk about it.
Yeah.
7th grade, what? Geez, how old are you? 12? 12. So puberty starts happening and whatnot.
Yeah,
Now, I have a dear friend who is trans, who told me that when I was 6, 7, 8, I knew.
Yep.
I knew. And if I was able to talk about it and be myself at that point in time, I wouldn't have had to spend the next 10 years fighting off male hormones.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I respect that part of it too.
Yeah.
A worry that I have, or some people have, is that children are so malleable. They're very easily to be influenced.
Absolutely.
They have no idea what reality is. And we have a responsibility to guide them a bit.
Right, absolutely.
And especially with the social media stuff we were talking about, I think really in young girls, there's this point where they become very uncomfortable with their bodies.
Yep.
And I think it could be a problem that somebody who's not confident and is uncomfortable in their body, they may think the right decision for me, because I'm a bit of a tomboy or whatever, is to take male hormones at a very young age. And I think that could have some dangers.
Right.
So I guess maybe what I'm realizing is that the conversation at these ages is very important, right? As long as it's objective.
Yeah.
You know, because I know there's this push for everybody to be who they want to be. But I think sometimes it can be confusing for a young person.
Absolutely. And that's kind of for me, like, because I have friends that are, you know, have started transitioning from a young age. And one of my friends specifically, I think he started in high school taking hormones. But he told his parents at a very young age, like 6, 7, 8, around then as well. And they were totally cool with it, totally accepting, like 100% supportive. But the doctor recommended to wait, just so that, like, developing wise, like, you know, and you're like for sure. And he told me about, he like went to a bunch of therapy sessions to just really make sure, like, you know, this is who you are, and you're not gonna make them, like, you're not gonna regret down the line messing with your body and your health. So it is confusing, and it's
a lot of information, especially for young people.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that the people who are in the positions of power to teach young people are objective, and they see things from both sides and the potential risks involved. Because I'll tell you what, when I was 12 years old, I had no fucking idea who I was going to be, what I was going to be. I'm sure that certain people, do you know this guy right here? Purple Heart ENT? Foja? You guys run in the same circles too. You might know Foja. He's a videographer.
Oh, he's been here before. Yeah, I think he was wearing a red hoodie last time I saw him.
The homie, he's been out of town for a while. Sorry, I got distracted.
No worries.
What was I saying? Objective, balanced approach. When I was 12 years old. When I was a young kid, I was into show tunes. I was always dancing. I bet that some of the parents around the neighborhood was like, I think Blake's gonna be gay. I'm serious. I was like, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took me a while to find masculine confidence.
Yo, and that's a big problem too. Not to cut you off. Society puts huge pressure on kids, and that's like a big reason why it's so confusing. Not even just for kids, for adults. You know, people still struggling as an adult to, you know, figure out who they are. And that's a big reason is because for as long as existence, you know, society has said like, this is what a man's supposed to do, this is what a woman's supposed to do, this is what a man's supposed to look like, you know, whether it be like even down to toys, you know, like if you're a little boy, you're supposed to play with action figures, you don't play with dolls, you know. Right. And if you are a boy that plays with dolls, they might be gay. What's going on, man? Sorry.
So that's so true, right?
Yeah.
And I guess there's this thing like, you know, you have a son puts on a dress, and then the dad beats the shit out of said son, right? Yep. You don't do this, son. We wear army clothes, whatever that may be, right? What I've heard is that can actually cause trauma based around gender, that in the later years, this person may want to revolt when they have freedom to do with what they want with their body. If they were allowed to do that fantasy play as a child, right? If this boy was allowed to wear dresses, play with dolls, and figure out the roles and say, I see what this feels like, and then I also see what it feels like to dress like a boy. Okay, I figured it out. I'm gonna wear boy clothes.
Yep.
But if you create trauma based around that, or fear, or anxiety, or embarrassment, that could actually, you know, trigger some PTSD when you get to a teenager in high school, and now you're like, I definitely want to be a woman, where, you know, maybe without that trauma, you would have been able to figure that out earlier or something.
Right.
So the importance of being supportive at home, letting your kids figure out who they are, and not conditioning them to wear a certain thing, I think is very fair and true. It's just, again, it's such an interesting and confusing thing to navigate.
And I think,
you know?
like, especially with like the transgender thing and kids or even adults, like, we're still learning so much of, you know, the psychological stance of it, you know. And I feel like the more that we learn with time, because as of now, like, you know, therapists and science are like 100% behind it, you know, like they 100% like transitioning into whichever gender you believe you were, you know, supposed to be. And I feel like the more information that comes out, the more people can be educated and know how to go about that situation. If you do run into that problem, if you have a family member or a friend that thinks they may or may not be trans, you know, I feel like we just need more education. We need more awareness of it, and just kind of normalize that we're all different, you know. And at the end of the day, to me at least, what matters is if you're a good person or not, you know. And I think the world would be a lot better place if we all just focused on that. It's know true. What I mean?
And on love and on acceptance. Acceptance is huge. Yeah. You know? I appreciate you even having the conversation with me, right? Because these are all things for me that I'll have a little girl one day or a little boy one day, and I'm going to be raising them in a completely different world than when I was brought up.
Yep.
And I'm constantly just like taking in the information and seeing what different approaches are. I think there is risk involved with, like you mentioned, that the science and the therapists are 100% with transition. I think there's risks involved with that. Anybody who's like, you know, do it. You know, I think there should be a balanced approach. This is to everything, right? Diet, exercise, life, love, all of this should be balanced. So, and I think that there might be a potential risk because if anybody brings up what could be the cons, it's immediately silenced, you know? And I think that conversation is important so that the kids who are too malleable and maybe just want to go along with their group of friends, you know, could hurt themselves. So I think the conversation is important. I think both sides of the conversation are important. And I'll be the first one to say, oh shit, great point. Yeah. You know, I never thought of it that way. When I talked to my friend who's trans about this, I said, I just don't agree with children taking hormones.
I don't agree with that either. That's why I believe you should wait.
Till I heard my friend say, listen, I was 7 years old, and I knew it. And I've never felt anything different than that. And how much better would my life have been if I was able to, stop puberty?
I wonder if there's like a natural way to go about that so that you're not affecting your health, because no matter what, pumping yourself with hormones, whether you're trying to transition or you're taking steroids to try and get jacked.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, you're taking a health risk. Yeah,
huge
absolutely.
Health risk.
And maybe there should, I don't know if there is now. I definitely don't know. But if there isn't, it would be dope to find a way to go about it that is healthier,
Yeah, like with because I think we've seen that gender is really a spectrum, right? It's not a black and white thing. And there's got to be some sort of biological markers that we can see, whether it's in our DNA or our chromosomes, to see what side of the spectrum you are or whatnot. But again, it's just so weird because for years, you would be a gay man.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't transition. You would just be a flamboyantly gay man. But times are changing.
But I feel like, the thing is too, like, this actually been around for a very long time. It's just so many people haven't been able to be themselves.
This is true.
Because it's not talked about, or if it was talked about, it's shut down.
Shamed.
Exactly. And so I think just with more time, education, we can move forward with this. But to the law that they have passed, I can understand, like, I don't know. I just think we shouldn't be allowed to out people to their parents, because not everybody's ready to cross that bridge, and
it could lead to abuse.
A lot of getting beat, a lot of runaways, a lot of suicides, because not everyone's parents are happy to hear that their kid is gay, or
which is fucking unfortunate.
Yeah.
And infuriating for me.
Yeah. Thankfully my mom is cool now, but when I was 15, I told you they found stuff in my computer, and I came home and my mom was already home, and she's like, we need to talk as soon as your dad gets here. And I was like, oh, fuck, what did I do? So I started thinking really hard in my brain. I'm like, what did I do in the last, week that could get me in trouble? And I'm like, dang, I really don't, I was pretty good lately, you know what I mean? Like, what did I do?
What the hell could I have done?
Exactly. And I swear, dude, I remember this like yesterday. When my dad came home, I was sitting in my living room, which faced the front door, and it's connected to my kitchen. So my mom's over here, front door's over here. I'm kind of in the point of a triangle. And the second my front door shut, on the fucking nail, as soon as it shut, my mom screams at me. She's like, so you're a fucking queer? And I was like,
no.
15-year-old me. I'm just like, oh, this is not. I mean, I knew I just had my first girlfriend, just accepting that, okay, this is who I am, because I knew for a while too, but I also didn't want to accept that that's what it was. And at the same time, I wasn't worried about, I was not interested into even having a boyfriend or girlfriend until I was 14, 15. Those thoughts didn't even really cross my mind. Yep. I like to hang out, I like to do sports. I always did music, so I was, social with people. I didn't think.
Right, there was no romantic thoughts.
Exactly. And so when they did start to happen, probably towards the end of 8th grade, 13 going to 14, then I started to realize oh, I think I like girls, because there was one girl that I really had a huge crush on, and I was like, this is weird. Nah, this, what I'm saying? That's my friend. I can't do that. You know what I mean? And it's something I battled for a while, a couple years, until I finally accepted it, and then I did date somebody, and it just started. We were new in the relationship, probably a month, 2 months tops, and I was, like I said, just not ready. So for me, if I could, if I had a redo, obviously you don't, I would have wished that didn't happen, and I wish I could have grown up a little bit more and, just got to know myself better and know, okay, this is for sure, this is who I want to be, because I questioned it for a long time, and I didn't even really get the time to fully accept that, okay, I'm a fully lesbian, you know what I mean? I know for sure I like women because I was trained to like men, and I think for these youth, I pray to God that there's very minimal situations where people do get outed, or we get to a point where we can take that part out of the bill.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that kids should have safe places to, get to know themselves outside of the constricted, maybe dated beliefs of their parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that, there's maybe some sort of circumstance where, if you find, kids hooking up in the bathroom at school,
no matter what, you should shut that down.
Right.
No matter who is, unless it's, what I'm saying, if it's like a teacher, then you should call the cops.
Right.
But
no, yeah, but kids, if I were in 7th grade and I was, making out with or doing weird stuff with a girl at school,
right,
my parents would find out about that.
Right.
Unless you had like a cool dean who was like, listen, this, you guys are young and I understand what you're, kind of going through. It can't happen again. You can't do that on school property. We're not going to tell your parents because we don't want this to snowball into something worse than it is.
Right.
Here's, this is how we're going to move forward. It was cool deans that, I used, a dean in high school may not have that in middle school, but
principal.
It's like, but the dean would be like the principal of like a name. Like if you have a large class, you have like somebody who's focused on like last name A through F.
Okay.
So you can get more personalized leadership than one main principal. It was cool deans who realized that I had ADD and fucking was never paying attention in class. Rather than just constantly writing me up, they found ways for me to be successful without having to report it to my parents.
Same.
So I think there's definitely value in that type of relationship with a trusted person in your school. So I think maybe the law should be to protect children from being outed to their parents.
Yeah,
I can agree with that completely.
Yeah, there's the other things too that, and honestly, this is my opinion because I could care less for Republicans or Democrats, but when it comes to like the LGBT community, these politicians would be so much better, in my perspective, if they just left us alone. Because it feels like we take 5 steps forward and, or 1 step forward, 5 steps back. And, like, people don't realize, like, just in 2015, that was just barely 7 years ago, we just got able to legally marry your loved one. Like, that just passed.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Right.
So the effort that we do make just to see it, get pushed back, like, even to go to presidents, like, before Donald Trump, Obama passed a law allowing people to be gay or transgender in the military, and there was laws on the transgender thing, like you had to be fully transitioned, I guess, to do so. But before Obama, there was the don't ask, don't tell. And it's like whatever, at least they were still able to serve. But to have that pressure over your mind, like, oh, I can't even tell my person that I'm risking my life with who I am, like, that's messed up. And then we started to move forward. We got our rights, we got our rights to be married, and you got able to serve. And then Trump came in and he removed that law again, now still allowing gay people to serve, but if you were transgender, you were not allowed to serve. And it's just this constant going back and forth of just trying to move forward, and I feel like we're in a country that is so hateful that if you're not what we see you're supposed to be, like, we should just go to the extreme and make these laws of discrimination. And it's just tough, I don't know. I feel like we should stop sexualizing kids and thinking about so hard of, like, who they're trying to be with. I think that's weird. Like,
I agree with that. I agree with that completely.
There was a bill they were trying to pass in Texas, like, you can look this up, where thankfully it didn't pass, but when they passed all those laws about not allowing trans girls to participate in sports, they were trying to add on to that bill to allow teachers, like your gym coach, to check the child's genitalias to make sure that they are what they're claiming their gender to be. And to me, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life, and that's because we have such hateful people in position that are trying so hard to, I don't know what it is, just put out this hate and make it seem like it's this weird thing. People are people, and if you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, black, white, you're a piece of shit.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's so true. I think that progress and change is a battle. It's always a battle. Nothing changes without people in the streets and demanding change. And I think that sometimes that progress does come with 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. But as long as you're kind of moving that goalpost,
just gotta keep pushing.
Yeah, it's very important. And I think it's also, there's so many different variables to like figuring it all out, right? Like what are the what would be the negatives or the potential hazards from having a trans man or trans woman serve in the military amongst ranks of other men or other women? Is there something that would make somebody more vulnerable or a team more vulnerable? Right. We don't know. Obviously, you would think, it'll be everything's fine. But, does it subject somebody to potential abuse? Would it be a distraction from the mission at hand? There are all sorts of variables that we don't understand, but what we should understand is that we need to be more open to people's beliefs, who they are as people. But you have to remember, this country was founded by Christians with very prejudiced beliefs. Very prejudiced beliefs. This country was built on the back of black people and who were, treated terribly for hundreds of years. That was the foundation of this country. I believe that they came to this country planning on going to Africa and taking slaves here, and they built the whole fucking thing on prejudice. Right? My wife and I are watching the Underground Railroad series on, I think it's on Amazon or on Netflix. It's fucking unbelievably good because it's so well done, but so sad.
It's sad,
so sad,
history sucks.
Oh my God. And the other thing is that we were talking about this the other day. The history books are written by the victor. The history books are written by the people who won. So for so long we've been taught about history, especially with slavery. It was almost romanticized or whitewashed, I lived in the South for 15 years in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's fairly liberal, but just south of the border, South Carolina, and that's when I saw real racism. And I thought it had been gone. I thought it, because I grew up in South Florida where it was like, maybe even in my home, like it was just not even, it was not a thing. People were people, right? But in the South, you could see the roots of slavery and of segregation, hate, still very, very clear to be seen. I made music with a group of black guys. I was 18, 19 years old. To me, they weren't black guys. They were my friends. I didn't even realize that this was something different.
Right.
Until I was at my buddy's house who was recording our music, and I could tell he was uncomfortable.
With you or with your friends?
With my friends.
Oh.
And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here?
Yeah.
This is weird. What's he uncomfortable about?
Right.
Then the flip side is all my friends took me to this very small town in South Carolina, Kershaw, South Carolina, to their grandmother's house for Thanksgiving.
That's nice. It
was awesome. I overheard their grandmother say, "Why the hell did you bring this white boy here?"
Yep.
Because I understand. Because I didn't understand it then, but what I now what I know is that, white people have fucking treated them terribly for hundreds of years.
Yep.
And just because I make rap music doesn't negate that. What I mean? Just because maybe I don't see it that way doesn't negate that. And these people were living in houses that essentially were still left over from slavery times. Like this town hadn't progressed.
Right.
So like it's still so fresh. And people want to say like, oh, that was so long ago.
It wasn't.
Joe Rogan has this bit about people live to be 100 years old.
Right.
Right? So that was 3 people ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
Segregation was in the 50s.
Yep.
I mean, this wasn't that long ago. It's been swept into the living room. you know, thank God there are people who are pushing forward with acceptance. You know, I think it's also important to be said that, you know, the abolition of slavery, if that's the right word, excuse me. You know, there were white people who were not okay with it.
Yeah.
Not, you know, us, maybe a small group of them, but you know, they saw behaviors, and it was like, I think that was part of the Underground Railroad, is that there was white people who were like, we're fucking done with this.
Yeah, they were helping.
You know, which is, and I think you could still see that today, that there's like people who are fucking racist, and then there's people who, you know, white people who are like never even wouldn't allow it near them.
Yeah.
I've always been the guy. If I hear you use the N-word, I'm gonna tell you to your face, it's unfucking acceptable in my presence or at all.
Same.
You know, I've lost friends over it. I've lost relationships over it.
Me too.
Not gonna fucking happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm really passionate about it, and it's crazy that it's so that prejudice, this, to circle back, is built into our foundation of a country.
Yeah, right? There's this book, it's written by Malcolm X. He wrote like is it called an autobiography when you write it about yourself?
Yes.
So yeah, he wrote an autobiography, and he goes in detail of how he was grown up into a time that was the peak of segregation, and you know, if I'm not mistaken, like just coming out of slavery, and that's when like he was like a kid, and he was taught that the white man literally is the devil. That's exactly how he words it, is that you were taught that the white man was the devil, and the reason being is because of lynching, killings, you know, people literally setting people on fire.
Yeah.
And the reason why Malcolm X became such a huge influence in equal rights movements and the civil rights movements was because he had like a realization. I can't exactly remember. It's been a while since I read this book, probably about 10 years. But something happened where he was helped by a white man, and it changed his perspective, you know, that we're all the same. And he actually was like part of like the Black Panthers, which used to go and kill white people that, you know, were doing similar things to black folks. And he was a part of that, and then he switched. He like got out of that and then became a activist for equality, you know, for everybody. And it's just a really good book because, like I said, he goes in detail of why black people were so conditioned to not be okay with white people because you were afraid of them. You were scared of them. You don't want to be around them. You don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like what was trained into your brain. So there is a lot of people, like you said, I've experienced it myself, you know, where you see the guard up from, you know, older black folks because it's like they don't know, like, you know, their grandparents were getting whipped and getting fire extinguished hose or whatever, you know, like just crazy stuff. And that's why we got to push love and show, you know, we're not monsters, you know. And that's why I really love that book by Malcolm X, because he was such a huge influence, and to hear that he actually used to hate white people because that's what he was taught, you know, is very inspiring. And it shows that really anybody can come around, and you just have to show love and compassion. And you know, someone is gonna realize it. You just got to break that cycle, break that chain. Have
you heard Lil Wayne's story about Uncle Bob?
Yeah. When he got shot, when he shot himself.
Got shot, and all the cops had jumped over him. We're looking for more people, drugs in the apartment, and there was a white cop who like said, you know, there's a kid here.
Yeah, like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and you can tell how bad, how much it impacted Wayne, and you know, but some people would say like he's not a real depiction of you know, black struggle in this country. He got signed to
New Orleans, Louisiana.
This is very true.
Slums, you know.
This is very true.
A very racist place as well. You know what I mean?
Where a white cop saved his life.
Right.
And it's things like that you know, kind of push things forward a bit. You hope, you know.
Yeah.
You know, speaking on race and music and whatnot, you know, you and I are similar. You know, we are white people who make rap music.
Oh yeah, I've been told not to rap. For being white.
Right. I've definitely had, you know, times where, you know, I was, you know, the only white guy at Studio 74 on Independence in Charlotte, North Carolina for One Mic Mondays, you know, and I remember, and at this point, I'm 19, 20 years old. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why I wasn't being accepted, because I had such respect and passion for black culture and
right.
music and family, right? This is all stuff that I had such high regards to, but I didn't understand that I was being looked at as that I was like a culture vulture.
Yo, the white people stole everything. Like, there's so much stuff that goes so deep, even further than hip hop. You know, like how you said, like, this country was built on the backs of black
Yes.
people. You know what I mean? Like, it goes even deeper than that. Like, there's so many things that were invented and created and put into place because of black people, a black person, male, female, whatever. But the white male has always taken credit for it, you know? And so when it comes to having like your own thing, you know, they started hip hop, you know, hip hop music, you know, is what started like in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And like that was kind of like your way of having creative freedom. And you go to like even like NWA when they came out with like, you know, fuck the police.
Yeah, this is what they call reality rap. Right? It came out first where the rap out of New York City was like emceeing, the master of ceremonies. It was often using a microphone over break beats to get the party going. So it was very party, very have a good time, right? And then one song came out, what is this song? It's talking about standing on the corner. It's a guy out of New York. It's gonna kill me. I'll think of it. But then NWA came out, and that was called reality rap, where you know so many white people were so appalled by, and you know, these young black men were using music to get themselves out of a bad situation, and they were telling their story. And of course it's appalling because what's happening to them is appalling.
Right.
But thank God for those storytellers. You know, I used to get made fun of like, you know, Blake's a white Jewish rapper, you know, like, and I would say like, you ever heard of the Beastie Boys?
Right.
The Beastie Boys were three white Jewish rappers. You know what I mean?
They were Jewish, but I didn't
yeah,
know
they
white.
are. Yeah, they're but it was different. It was like they made their music like Rick Rubin would take like rock samples and they made this music over rock music, and they were very quickly accepted. I think because what they were doing was authentic.
Yeah, and they kind of like had like not rock vibes, but like a funk vibe. It's
yeah, definitely
funky,
rock and roll.
Yeah.
Rick Rubin was a rock and roll producer, and he was the one who produced the Beastie Boys. But he's also has credits with Jay-Z and countless people. I don't know if you heard of Rick Rubin, you should definitely
I've heard.
You should definitely look into his like all of his work because he's worked with so many different types of musicians. I had a challenge in the South that I didn't know I was up against. Right. And I'm so thankful for, you know, my friends in the black community who were like, Blake, you're dope. You know, it doesn't matter what color you are, you're dope, and we support it.
Shout out to them.
Yeah,
same here.
These are my best friends on the planet. You know, like Kevin Birch, Big Trav, Dirty Red, Ptsd. These are people who embraced what I was doing at a very young age and took me with them and told all of their homies like, no, you know, it's not what we're used to seeing. This guy's not trying to, you know, be a culture vulture. He loves loves the music and is very talented, and you know, we co-sign him, and I'm thankful for that. You know,
absolutely.
But I also was, you know, showing behaviors that, looking back, I didn't realize was fucking racist.
Oh yeah.
You know, I would say shit. And now I can't even think of things I would say that was fucking racist, that I thought I was being funny. It was just because my mind didn't compute it properly.
Right,
I'm not racist. Yeah. You know, but I didn't realize the things I was saying were like insensitive. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
like my poor father, he's like that terribly. My dad doesn't have a racist bone in his body, but because of, I don't know, like certain ignorance of white people. Yep. You know, that being said, my dad's Jewish. He marched with Martin Luther King in the Million Man March. I mean, him and a million other people.
Right.
He did sit-ins at CVS's and stuff. There was a big thing with the Jews. The Jews have been oppressed for centuries also.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Like we were slaves and built the pyramids and the Holocaust.
Mass genocide.
Yeah, so I think that subconsciously Jewish people can relate. and have empathy for Black oppression, right? And I think that's often where that connection comes from. Which I think is so powerful and a really interesting thing. I think it was a lot of Jewish people who were helping with the abolition of slavery. I also have the same birthday as Abraham Lincoln.
Wow.
And have Abraham Lincoln
Fun
tattooed
fact.
on my leg, and I never
dope.
really I've always looked at this weird connection there or whatever.
I have the same birthday as Hitler.
All right, this podcast is over.
I do. It's 420.
Crazy. Oh, really? Your birthday's 420?
And it's Hitler's birthday.
Oh, wow.
You said that, and I was like, dang, you know who else shares my birthday? But yeah, no, I totally, I see where you're coming from. And it's crazy with all of the progression that we have made. There are still people to this day who still feel that way. I don't know if you actually recently heard Snoop Dogg told Eminem he shouldn't rap because he's white. And this is recent, and it's like, dang, you guys are both irrelevant, at least to me, in the
Damn,
rap.
y'all hear that?
In the rap game.
Y'all hear that? Eminem and Snoop Dogg are irrelevant to these kids.
They're legends. They're goats. But when it comes to current music, they're not.
You're right.
They're not. You know what I'm saying? They're not. They're just not there. Snoop Dogg did have like a good little run with Wiz Khalifa. Like what was that, like 2012 or something?
Yeah, absolutely. He embraced the young culture.
That was 10 years ago. Yeah. So you know what I mean? So
go ahead, sorry.
No worries. So to hear that, you know, that's actually still being like put out and by Snoop Dogg to Eminem, I was like, dang, you guys are both legends. Like, why are you knocking him? You know, we're in 2022. Like, what's happening? Where is that coming from? Where's that rooting from?
And especially, you know, there's plenty of people who would say Eminem is like the GOAT.
He's one of the best, hands down.
You know, when we're talking about lyricism, you're good, dude. When you're talking about lyricism and, you know, songwriting and song sales, but a lot of people would say that's like Elvis Presley, you know?
Right.
But Eminem even has a lyric about it, like to use black music so selfishly and make myself so wealthy or something. Like he pokes fun at it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I get it, because it's like black culture is like, can we have anything that's ours? Yeah. You know? Yep. But I think part of progression is has to realize that these young kids, myself, like I grew up on Outkast and Biggie and Ludacris, and these are huge musical influence. I love it. Before I ever wrote a rap song of my own, I could recite every lyric from Outkast, AT Aliens, every lyric front to back, you know, a freshman year of high school. And my friends were like, damn, that's really good. Same thing with Eminem. I could do every lyric, and that's what inspired me to make music, you know? While we're on the topic of music, I wanted to talk to you about your creative process. I have such a passion for CoralYouAreTheBomb.com. Thank you so much. I have such a passion and a respect for the creative process. And I talk about it a lot. When I would write music, I have terrible eyesight, right? So when I first started writing music, I would write my lyrics on paper. I would go into the booth, which was my friend's closet, and I couldn't read my fucking lyrics, right?
Especially with the mic in the way.
Oh, I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
So very quickly, I had to learn how to memorize it before I went into the booth. And shortly thereafter that, I never put it on a piece of paper again. I turn the beat on, and I pace around the room, and I say one line at a time, like, okay, start the beat over. Then the next line, then the next line. And my best songs always felt like they came from somewhere else. Right. It was like sent to me.
Yeah, like you don't even know how you wrote that type of deal.
Yes. So I wanted to talk to you about what your creative process is, what your writing process is. Do you start with a beat? Do you start with a chorus? How does that work for you?
So I start with, like, I don't know, every day I try to make music. Obviously, some days are different than others, and I have to, you know, do whatever, life. But I write best in the morning. I've noticed that. I definitely have different processes just depending on the situation. But most of the time, I like to write by myself, alone. That's when I do my best. I like to record alone as well. But I start with the beat, yes. And I really just kind of go off of how I feel. You know, like, what kind of mood am I in? I like to smoke when I write. It, you know, opens up my creativity.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
honestly, I've kind of just like built a habit of it. So like I feel like I even write better when when I have like a blunt in my hand. But like I said, like I just, you know, put the beat on, depending on how I feel. that's kind of like what kind of beats I look for. And then when I find a beat that I'm like, okay, you know, I'll mumble some stuff, rap some stuff. When I find a beat, okay, I'm feeling this, I'm not feeling this. I'm very picky about beats too, so that's actually like a huge process.
Yeah.
Finding a beat for me is honestly at least 50 to 60% of my process.
Yeah.
Because that's building the foundation of where this song is gonna go.
Yeah.
You know, and what emotions I'm feeling with the melody or the drums or, you know, etc. And once I find myself a melody, you know, I've honed myself a cool little chorus. I'm like, okay, I got myself a concept. This is what I'm gonna go with, and then I go from there. And sometimes I'm just like feeling like, yo, I just want to make music, but I have kind of just like a even keel mindset right now. You know, I'm not happy, I'm not sad. I'm just like, I just want to go create, and I'll throw a beat on and I'll freestyle, and whatever comes out of my mouth kind of directs where I'm gonna be heading with this song. And then, you know, thankfully I have my own studio and I'm able to take as much time as I want to on a song. You know, I can go and punch in, record something like, oh, I don't like that, or I like the flow I used, but that wasn't making any sense, so let me go back and write in some words that actually sound good with that flow. You know, and it all comes together as just this you know, great song. And, you know, I do all my mixing and mastering myself, so, you know, I get to really dive deep into what I want it to sound like. And it took me a long time too to even find really what my sound is. I think even in the last 6-7 months, I can confidently say I know like what I'm going for, you know. And I've experienced with so many different things over time that, you know, I didn't know if I wanted to be like this like Eminem, Machine Gun Kelly kind of white kid rapper. Yeah, did I want to be this cool like, I don't know, Mac Miller, J. Cole type of chill vibe type of rapper, you know? What did I want to do, you know? And then Drake came out and I'm like, yo, do I fucking love this? Do I want to be a singer? Do you know, like I had so many different influences. I love rock music, punk music. Did I want to do that? Like, I was all over the place, you know, and that's good too, you know, just experimenting with different things. And now I've kind of come to a point where I feel like I've mixed kind of all of my influences into who I am today. Like, you know, like you'll get kind of that punk vibe on, you know, you'll get a rap vibe, you'll get an R&B vibe, kind of mixed into one. And like, you know, like I used to listen to like those fucking cheesy, corny like rock bands, like Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens. Like, you know, these are like some emo, emotional ass kids that are just like singing. And like I really resoned with that. So but then I also really love rap music, and I love the way like flow and cadences and how you can express yourself like it's like poetry, but like, you know, on a nice beat. And I don't know, now I feel like when I go in there, like when I go in the booth and I go to record or I go to write, I kind of just have more confidence in what I'm doing now because I found my sound. And yeah, that's kind of my creation process / influences.
No, that's perfect. I absolutely love that. It resonates with me heavily. I had a very similar writing process with the freestyle gibberish to figure out your delivery and your rhetoric and your pattern, and then like go back and be like, oh, I like the way that flow was, and then just find the words to fit to it. I totally understand that. Well, I joke that sometimes these mumble rappers, they just keep the gibberish track.
They don't even go and fill it in. Yeah,
I'm serious.
It works.
I got whole songs that sound like mumble rap from 12 years ago that I thought weren't finished. Had I known, I would have released them.
You would have been striving. You could have been that rapper. They would have signed you.
No, but talking about the emo influence, that's been heavy in hip hop recently.
Yo, I used to get clowned for that.
Bro, think about poor Lil Peep. God rest his fucking soul.
Yeah,
that's the importance of having good people around you. You know?
Absolutely. 100% perfect example.
That story, you watched that documentary?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God, I've watched it 3 times.
He's so sweet. He's such a sweet kid.
And a brilliant artist. And you can see his influence everywhere. You know, I'm sorry, MGK. I'm a huge fan of MGK. I have been for 10 years. But I feel like the Pink and everything. Come on, that's Peep. And then the other kid with the Trippie Redd, that sounds like Peep, man. You know?
Yeah, he shook up the game, you know, because he's this kid from New York, this little emo kid who was doing these like dark punk kind of trap songs, you know,
in his bedroom.
Yeah.
In
But
his
then,
fucking
but he
bedroom.
really started to flourish, man. Like he really, like, but when he overdosed, he was, and they talk about it in the documentary too. Like they were making these shitty videos on their iPhones or whatever camera phones, and like you could see the progression of like him going from with his friends just like messing around, making these shitty quality songs, but still had very much influence, and then going and he really became a fucking star.
Yeah.
And it was like as soon as he got there, it's like he overdosed, and it's so sad to see that,
Well, you see all the controversy in that documentary, and it just goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, that the people closest to you don't want to see you do better than them.
Yep.
And there's theories that that was done to him on purpose. Like some of the people close to him gave him something that it's fucking terrible. But to see his influence in music is what was initially frustrating to me, but then it was like I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's important to give credit where credit is due. But that emo influence is heavy in hip-hop right now. And I like what you said about experimenting with all these different sounds, and now your sound is like all of them. It's like a soup, right? It's like a soup of all the things that you love, that you've added your own seasonings to, that creates s.saik, and I think that's a beautiful thing about music and hip-hop specifically. Hip-hop has always been about sampling and combining and rearranging, and music has this progression where young people like yourself get influenced by all these different sounds, right? It's like punching all this shit into a calculator, and what comes out is, s.saik.
Yeah.
It's fucking dope.
It is pretty dope.
It's pretty dope. s.saik, I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you.
I am very glad that we met. I have a lot of respect for what you do for the community.
Thank you.
I know that I just saw on your social media you were out feeding the homeless the other night, and you're always thinking outside of yourself to better our community. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
I think your music is fucking awesome. I thank you for letting me be in your video. Even though you didn't want my actual face in it. I understand. My mom always told me I had a face for radio. So keep it up, dude.
Thank you.
Keep it up. And maybe I can blow the dust off the microphone.
Yes.
And we can do a song together in the future.
Gotta get it done.
Cool.
That would be amazing. Yes.
Before we check out, because I could go back and forth with you about music and creation all day. Is there any last thoughts you want to share with people who are watching, or maybe any advice you want to give upcoming artists? Or
just if I could give the whole world advice, is just be yourself. This is your world. Chase your dreams. Don't let people's negativity control your life. Get away from people who bring you down. Listen to your instincts. Don't be a shitty person. And if you work really hard and you stay true to who you are, you're going to have a very rewarding life. And if you're grateful for the things around you, things are going to go well. And work hard. Don't give up. I saw something the other day that, what did it say? If you're tired of starting over, then stop giving up. So whatever it is you got going on, and you want that, like, chase after it. No matter how many times you fail, you got to get back up and chase it. None of this success in life is easy. Others have it easier than others, but just got to keep grinding. Love yourself, and take care of yourself. That's it for everybody. If I could give any advice, that's why I say love yourself, gang.
Beautiful. s.saik, thank you so much for sitting down with me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Social media, how can people find you on social media or get involved with what you got going on?
You can follow me on Instagram at s.saik music, which is s.saik music, spelled as is. You can find me everywhere, s.saik. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. But you'll get your most exclusive content off of Instagram. That's where you'll get, the most of me at.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Join s.saik now. All of our information will be below. We appreciate you guys joining us for this conversation today. If you like what you heard and want more, make sure you click subscribe, click the little bell button. I'm doing this backwards. And continue to love yourself. You are worth it. Yes. Thank you so much. We will see you soon.
Peace out. Hey, awesome, man.
Fuck yeah, s.saik. Thank you.
That was good. Thank you.